Okay, let's just dive right into this because this is wild. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're digging into the hidden and frankly, completely bizarre history hiding right underneath your fingertips, literally right now. We're going to unpack the story behind your keyboard layout. It's this crazy mix of mechanical meltdowns, brilliant ergonomic solutions, and, well, the sheer stubborn power of human habit. We're mapping out exactly why the tools we use every single day look the way they do, and we'll see if maybe, just maybe, we've been doing it all wrong for a century and a half.
But before we get too deep, I actually want you to do something for me. Seriously, take a second, look down at your computer keyboard right now, or pull up the keyboard on your smartphone. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder why the letters seem, I don't know, completely random? I mean, it's not alphabetical, right? It doesn't group the vowels together. Honestly, it kind of looks like someone just dumped a bag of Scrabble tiles onto a desk. It feels like total chaos. But I promise you there is a very specific, historical logic to this madness.
So, that layout staring back at you, it actually has a name. It's called QWERTY. And look, if you're wondering where that highly technical sounding, almost robotic name comes from, it's literally hiding in plain sight. Look back at the top left row of letters on your keyboard. Read the first 6 letters going from left to right. Q, W, E, R, T, Y. Boom, QWERTY. What sounds like some super complex piece of tech jargon is, well, just the first sequence of keys.
Now, to understand why those specific letters are sitting exactly where they are, we actually have to travel way back to the 1870s. Enter an inventor named Christopher Latham Sholes. Now, Sholes was working on the design of early typewriters, and he was facing this absolute mechanical crisis. See, early typewriters, they weren't these sleek, silent digital screens we're used to. No, they were heavy, clunky, physical machines packed with a ton of moving parts. Try to imagine that loud, heavy clacking sound echoing in a room, and the sheer physical force it took just to press down a single key. Every single stroke was a serious physical effort. So here's where the breakdown happened. Back then, pressing a key caused this physical metal arm, a type arm, to swing up and literally strike an ink ribbon against the paper. The problem? If a typist typed too fast and they hit 2 letters that were physically close to each other inside the machine, those metal arms would collide. They'd clash, they'd get tangled, and the whole machine would completely jam up. So what did Sholes do? This is the brilliant but kind of completely counterintuitive part. Sholes didn't invent a better, faster machine. Nope. He intentionally crippled the user's speed. He looked at which letters were most frequently used together in English, and he deliberately moved them far apart. He engineered the QWERTY layout to force typists' hands to travel further, slowing them down just enough so the metal arms wouldn't get tangled up. So, let that sink in for a second. The absolute standard that we use today on our blazing fast smartphones and our cutting-edge laptops was originally designed to compensate for a 150-year-old mechanical flaw. It was built for a machine's limitation, not for human comfort. But what if we did build a keyboard purely for human efficiency? Well, that brings us to this incredibly fascinating historical what-if and, really, the great battle of the keyboards, QWERTY versus Dvorak.
Enter August Dvorak and William Dealey. Decades after Sholes, these two guys looked at the standard QWERTY layout and thought, this is incredibly inefficient. Because remember, they didn't have to worry about those clunky, jamming metal arms anymore, so they approached keyboard design from a totally different angle, really looking at it through the lens of math, physiology, and pure ergonomics. And they didn't just guess here. They rigorously studied human hand physiology. They actually filmed professional typists in slow motion so they could analyze every single micro-movement, every little strain. Their goal was simple: create a layout that worked with the natural movements of the human hand, instead of constantly fighting against it. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark, undeniable difference in their approaches. Think about the home row. That's that middle horizontal row on your keyboard where your fingers naturally rest, right? In the QWERTY layout, only about 32% of your typing is actually done on that home row. Your fingers are constantly jumping, reaching, stretching all over the place. But with Dvorak, a massive 70% of common letters are right there. Your fingers barely move. You type faster. You literally fly across the keys. It's ultimate efficiency. Everything is just sitting right under your resting fingertips.
But the Dvorak layout wasn't just about breakneck speed. Because it so dramatically decreases the physical distance your fingers have to travel, it actually comes with some incredible health benefits. By keeping your fingers comfortably stationed right there on that home row, it drastically reduces the strain on your hand's tendons and muscles. It turns out, typing this way actually lowers your risk of developing repetitive strain injury, RSI, and it significantly drops the chances of suffering from carpal tunnel syndrome. So it was mathematically faster and medically safer.
Which of course brings us to a massive, glaring question. Honestly, it's the core paradox of this entire explainer. If the DeVrat layout is mathematically superior, if it allows for much, much faster typing speeds, and if it actively protects your physical health by reducing all that crazy finger movement, why didn't it win? Why aren't we all happily typing away on DeVrat keyboards right now? Why are you still looking down at a QWERTY layout on your multi-thousand-dollar devices?
Well, the answer really lies in the sheer, undeniable power of human habit, and what economists like to call lock-in. See, by the time the era of physical typewriters finally ended and the personal computer revolution kicked off, millions upon millions of people were already trained. Entire typing schools had been built completely around teaching QWERTY. Businesses bought QWERTY machines because that's what typists knew how to use. And typists learned QWERTY because, well, that's what businesses bought. It was an unbreakable loop. So even though the mechanical limitation, those jamming metal type arms, was completely a thing of the past, the human habit had become the unbreakable rule. The layout survived the massive technological jump from analog to digital simply because it's what everyone was already accustomed to. Habit, in this case, completely obliterated innovation.
So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with something to chew on. Think about this. If the absolute primary tool that we use every single day to text, to code, to write, and to communicate with the entire world is entirely dictated by a 150-year-old mechanical flaw, what other modern tools are holding us back simply out of habit? What other daily inefficiencies are we just blindly accepting in our lives right now because, hey, that's just the way it's always been done? Keep asking those questions, keep looking closely at the things you use every single day, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.